Thanks for joining us for another episode of Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum, where all voices matter. I'd like to welcome to the program John Wright. He is the Executive Vice President of Maru Public Opinion and a Distinguished Fellow at Queen's University. He'll discuss the latest in Canadian and other attitudes to the economy and consumer trends. Welcome to Boom and Bust.
Great to be with you, Tony.
I guess, John, the first thing, if you can tell us what kind of research you do into Canadian and other public opinion, that'd be great.
Well, my career has spanned now 35 years, beginning with Angus Reid and then staying with Ipsos, never went on to Maru. And so I've pretty well covered the gambit in terms of all the public policy issues you can deal with. But one of the things that I started long ago was a keeping the pulse on the economy in Canada, and then moved it into the United States in a separate set of studies, and then eventually in around 2012 into a global set of studies on consumers and their outlook on the economy, which is owned and operated by Reuters and their subsidiaries today. When I joined Maru back in July of 2020, we were in the midst of the pandemic, and I thought, there is a way to put another kind of index together, and that's based on short-term outlook as opposed to long-term, because we were making shorter-term decisions then. So since July of 2020, I, on a monthly basis, been asking consumers 23 questions, creating an index, but following each one of those portions so we can then match it up with what people are thinking and feeling about today, both in terms of the purchase intentions, and where the country is going, but also their pocketbooks and how they feel month to month.
Got it. Okay, that makes total sense. So can you tell our audience a little bit more about what the consumer sentiment in Canada is present?
Well, it's by fortune that just before we went on the air today, I had a chance to look at all three countries that we track. So we do Canada, the United States, and the United Kingdom. And what you take a look at in all three of those countries are some great similarities. And that's where I'd like to start when we start looking at these things. Number one, the country that actually feels the most optimistic about the outlook and where they are is the United Kingdom. And that comes on the heels, of course, of a crushing defeat of the Conservatives there by the Labour Party. But I think it's more so as opposed to who won the election. There was a huge pent-up desire for change. And we see this in all three countries following the pandemic. It's a sense of things are not going the way we wanted to, and we can relate to that as we discuss things, but they're just not connecting, and I want change. Now, whether or not it works with a particular party or not is yet to be seen, but there you go with that. So on the top line, all three countries have a sense that things are going to get better in the future. But when you take a look at their current situation, they're struggling. I mean, we've got almost 4 in 10 in each market who are just struggling to make ends meet. We have half the population in each of those markets, in fact, who believe that their day-to-day expenses are going to overwhelm them. And we don't have any progress from 1 month to another as to whether their own pocketbooks are getting any better. So I'd sum it up by saying this, that on the end of the pandemic, all of us were, a lot more optimistic and we were feeling pretty good. But once we got into the pandemic and on the other side, it seems like the rules of the game have changed. Yeah. You can have an economy which may be expanding. You can have hope in the future, but you're stuck where you are. You're not getting further ahead. And in fact, some segments of the consumer citizen group are going down month after month. So there's this big disconnect that you and I see when we look at all these polling, and that is this great big difference between the outlook and your pocketbook, and it's still there and very significant.
Yeah, is it safe to say, I mean, I think most people, it just makes sense, kind of look at their own experiences to decide whether they're doing well or poorly. So it doesn't matter what the labor participation rate is or what the inflation rate is or what the unemployment rate is. They're going to look at how things are affecting them here and now.
Well, I have a bit of a theory, having looked at all of this stuff, and we all experienced COVID. We all know what it was like in different places. But let me try you with this theory. I think that, at the election time in 2021, we'd just seen the spark of inflation. It was up to 4.1 and then went to 4.8 and then gradually ratcheted up. in a normal circumstance, the government would bring in monetary policy to deal with that.
Right.
And so, as we've seen with the government, with the Bank of Canada,
John, I'm
we've
going to
seen
interrupt you here. I'm sorry to do this. We are going to take a break, and it's an important point you're about to make. We will
Okay.
come right back to you after these messages.